Hey guys, so recently the new House of Wolves exotic armor and weapons were data mined and some perks got changed around and stuff, but I've been getting a lot of questions recently about them, so I figured I might as well address it. Most of the exotic weapons I'm going to put on hold for now. We'll talk about the scout rifles, but the Queenbreaker's bow, Dreg's Promise, and Lord of Wolves are all really different and unique in how they operate, so I'm just going to reserve judgment on those weapons for now. We'll come back to them at a later day. Let's quickly go over the exotic scout rifles. The 347 Vesta Dynasty is in that sweet spot of scout rifles, has the same impact and rate of fire as stuff like Vision of Confluence, Fang of Your Ute, another NITC, so that's good. 19 shots in the magazine is pretty good, no field scout available, but 19 is a pretty good number. Icarus is going to be a very interesting bonus. We're going to have to wait and see how much of an increase in airborne accuracy you get. The David and Goliath bonuses are interesting. More armor for 15 seconds from non-precision kills for Goliath, and more agility for 15 seconds from precision kills from David. Once again, need to find out how much armor and agility, but I can't imagine it's going to be a ton. Overall, its core stats make it a good scout rifle, but the bonuses I'm really going to need to be sold on before I consider using this over something else. Something like, I don't know, Vision of Confluence or Fang of Your Ute. The Fate of All Fools is a slower firing scout rifle, sort of hand cannon-like in nature. It has horrible stability, but given that it's a slow firing scout rifle, this shouldn't be too much of a hindrance. 13 shots in the magazine is a little weak. First bonus, Zen Moment, helps to combat any instability. That's fine. Extended mag is probably going to be my go-to. The weapon already reloads pretty quickly. The main bonus, chain body shots to get bonus damage on your next precision shot. Once again, we need to see how much the bonus damage is and how many shots is required to activate the damage bonus. Generally, you want to be going for headshots pretty much all of the time, so the precision damage needs to be huge for players to purposefully aim to the body. I can see this weapon being not too good depending on how much the damage bonus is. It's pretty much going to solely rely on that for me. Also, to quell any potential questions, as of the making of this video, we still have no idea how this weapon is actually earned. There was something data mined quite a while ago about it being Trials of Osiris related, so if it's still that, I imagine you're going to need to do a lot of Crucible and a lot of winning in Trials of Osiris. The other exotics, one of them is a sidearm, and I've had zero time with the sidearms, so I really need experience with them. Lord of Wolves is a pulse rifle-like shotgun, which is very different, and the Queenbreaker's bow is a really unique weapon in that it can be a fusion rifle or a charging sniper rifle-like weapon. So yeah, I'm not even going to touch that stuff for now. Let's move to the exotic armor. We'll start with Hunters. I'm going to cover their main bonuses, basically because that's what people mostly care about. Obviously, these are preliminary reviews. We don't know how good or bad these things are really going to be until we see them in practice, but I figured it can't hurt to give a preliminary review. The first exotic, and probably the one with the most attention, is Celestial Nighthawk, where your golden gun gets only one shot, but it deals 6 times the damage, and you get Keyhole, which is the overpenetration perk. This is an all-in perk. You better not miss with golden gun. Now, unless I'm missing something huge here, for PvP, this is not a selection you're going to want to make. There's no reason to overkill your enemies like that. Symbiote is still probably going to be your pick. There is the unlikely situation of needing to penetrate a Ward of Dawn with a lot of people inside, so yeah, for something like that, sure. But for the other 99% of the game, you're going to want to roll with Symbiote. For PvE, this effectively doubles the damage of Golden Gun, which is something that it very much needed as a buff. The problem is that it dumps all of that damage into one shot, so you might do considerable overkill to a target. But there is Keyhole. For boss fights, yeah, this is good damage, or for any times where you absolutely need something dead right now, yeah, it's a good pick. I think this is certainly going to be viable as a PvE selection, and I might use this over Symbiote to at least try it out. The side bonuses are both related to super energy generation, so you can be pumping out a lot of shots. Kepri's Sting are gauntlets where you gain invisibility after a short crouch, and then melee attacks done from behind while invisible deal 4 times the damage. I don't think these are going to be very good. For PvP, you can literally do this now. As a Blade Dancer, you can stab people from behind and instant kill them if you have backstab, and sometimes from the front because it's bugged. There's a lot of synergy with the invisibility for Blade Dancers, but I just don't know if all that effort is going to translate into damage equal to if you were just shooting a gun. You have something like crouch to go invisible, escape artist melee attack into another melee attack if the invisibility cooperates that way, but while shotguns are as strong as they are, if you're going to go in for a melee, you might as well use a shotgun. My current verdict, I don't see these getting used a ton. You have to balance how good these are versus other stuff currently available, and I don't really see these winning. Maybe for stuff that requires any sort of stealth or stealth can get you an advantage, but overall, verdict's still out. I'm on them. Last Hunter exotic are Bones of Eao, which gives your double jump an additional jump, so you can get higher and move a little bit farther. Most gunslingers use triple jump already in PvP, and most blade dancers use blink. I don't see many gunslingers going to double jump and wasting their exotic slot to make their double jump slightly better than triple jump over anything else available exotic-wise. Sure, jumping is probably your most used ability in the game, but I don't see these getting pushed too much by the mainstream. I personally have no plans to use these seriously unless something happens where apparently they're incredibly good and I'm just missing something. Let's move to Titan exotics. These are going to be pretty straightforward. Eternal Warrior gives Unstoppable to Fist of Havoc, so like Helm of Inmost Light gives Death from Above and Headstrong, Eternal Warrior works the same way. This is a boring exotic and not a very good one. For PvP, most strikers use Shoulder Charge, but I would absolutely not give up my exotic slot for Unstoppable. I would rather just take it in the tree. For PvE, I'm not giving up stuff like Saint 14 or Rune Wings for this bonus at all, especially with the way Prison of Elders is, where you're likely to be a defender. It looks cool, but beyond that, I'm not going to be using this thing terribly often, if ever. Peregrine Greaves gives your Shoulder Charge bonus damage if you hit with it in the air. For PvP, no, Shoulder Charge is already a one-shot. Yes, you might be able to bust targets with an overshield, but those situations are pretty rare. For PvE, once again, no, I'm going to go with no. I guess it would depend on how much bonus damage you get, but I can't imagine it being a ton. ACD Zero Feedback Fence is either going to be a decent option or just bad. If you're hit by a melee attack, you do an AoE which damages enemies around you. Now in PvP, if the damage is enough where you can be hit by a melee attack, have the enemy get hit by the AoE and then retaliate with your own melee attack and kill them, then yeah, these are going to be at the very least a viable option. If they don't do that, then it's going to be a pass, but it also depends on if there's an internal cooldown to the ability proccing. If there is no cooldown, then they might still be viable, but I doubt they're not going to have a cooldown. I think they're going to have a cooldown. In PvE, it depends on what kind of damage we're talking about, and once again, if there's an internal cooldown. However, I'm not too keen on using an exotic that requires me to be hit by melee attacks for it to be effective. Overall, the Titan exotics are pretty lackluster at first look in my opinion. Yes, they all have situational uses, but I want my exotic choice to do as much as it possibly can for me at all times, and nothing here really screams that it would be more useful over anything else in the game right now. Moving to Warlock exotics. The Ram appears to be somewhat of a PvP-focused helm, where you gain increased armor and your Voidwalker melee attack triggers health regeneration. Considering Voidwalker has Blink and Blink Shotgun is a very popular thing, I can see this being pretty good. Not to mention that Warlocks get pretty good range on their melee attacks. The only thing that makes me go, is that Lifesteal is already a thing for Warlocks, but it only activates on kills, not just general hits. Overall, I'd say you should consider this exotic. I will absolutely be testing it versus something like Voidfang Vestment, but I guess it depends a lot on playstyle as well. Nothing Manacles gives your Scatter Grenade tracking and gives you another charge of Scatter Grenade. These are also pretty interesting because Scatter Grenade actually deals a ton of damage in PvP. It's just tough to land in that environment. It depends on the level of tracking, like if all the little individual bits of the Scatter Grenade track or if the grenade itself tracks before it explodes or whatever. I can't really come to any sort of verdict until we know that information though, but it definitely does have potential. The last exotic, Purifier Robes, gives your Radiance ability a disorient when reviving from death, so you will disorient enemies around you when you self-res. For PvE, this actually isn't too bad, it just kind of adds another layer of safety to self-resing, although once again, relying on an exotic that requires you to die for it to be effective isn't exactly my idea of fun. It's much more of an insurance exotic. And something like Trials of Osiris, yeah, bet on seeing this a lot on Sunsingers. A good activation can absolutely destroy the other team and cause some controllers to be launched into walls. The disorient duration is almost irrelevant because as long as it lasts a little bit more than a second, you're going to be able to res and one-shot melee the closest thing to you. The radius, however, is very much relevant, and depending on how wide the radius is, will influence how viable of a selection the Purifier Robes will be. Anyway guys, those are your preliminary reviews of the new exotics coming to House of Wolves. These are not absolute final reviews of the exotics, obviously. I'm going to need some hands-on time with all of them to come to full conclusions, of which I'm sure you'll hear my opinions on these exotics in full during our time with the House of Wolves. Thank you all very much for watching, and enjoy House of Wolves.